GM und herzlich willkommen zu Episode 9 von Kryptoticker, der Podcast. In Folge 9 hatte ich David Peng zu Gast. David ist der Gründer von Tasty Bones und außerdem auch Gründer und CEO von w3bmint.xyz. Mit w3bmint hat er es geschafft, eine No-Code-NFT-Lösung zu entwickeln, die es Projektteams ermöglicht, ihre Ideen möglichst effizient und erfolgreich umzusetzen und das Ganze dann eben als No-Code-Lösung. Das Gespräch mit David fand im Rahmen der Berlinverse 2022 statt und neben dieser Podcast-Folge könnt ihr euch außerdem auch die Keynote von David anschauen, die wirklich super spannend ist. Den Link dafür packe ich euch natürlich in die Shownotes rein. Und jetzt viel Spaß mit Episode 9 von Kryptoticker, der Podcast mit David Peng. David, lovely to have you here. For everybody listening, probably it would be best if you just introduced yourself. What do you do? Where do you come from? What's your thing?
My thing. All right. My name's David. My parents are Chinese, but I am from New Zealand. So I sort of grew up in New Zealand, and then my background is actually in law. So I was a lawyer for a couple of years in Melbourne in Australia.
Okay.
Hated that. And then moved to Germany, Freiburg and Breisgau to be precise.
Okay.
Learned German there. Got a job, wasn't sure what to do, but I was able to get a visa through this job.
Yeah. Just sorry to interrupt, but how did you get from New Zealand to Freiburg?
Yeah, well, technically from Melbourne to Freiburg.
Okay,
I was in Australia, but I see the difference. I can give you a couple of reasons, but I think the main one is my ex-girlfriend was German.
Okay,
and she lived in Freiburg at the time, and it just made sense.
Okay, right, got it. Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, that makes sense. But the way I got into crypto was when I was a lawyer, as boring as that was. One of my sort of mentors, if you want to call it that, at the time, she was one of the most prominent sort of blockchain Web3 lawyers in Australia.
Okay.
Of course, in 2016, no one even used the word Web3. It was just blockchain.
Sure.
And we had acted for a couple of sort of blockchain companies, one of which I remember was Binance, and we had advised them on an ICO rewarding coins to their employees and stuff, and like the tax and legal issues behind that. Yeah. And so at the time, this idea of this sort of money that isn't regulated but has all these sort of legal issues but also has inherent value, it kind of just blew my mind. And then I sort of got into the world of the dark web, not buying stuff, but more just seeing it and realizing there's even a use case for this weird unregulated digital money, and it kind of fascinated me. So that's how I got involved into crypto and Web3. Okay,
and what do you do now?
Yeah, so me and a couple of, I guess they're my friends now, but we sort of are colleagues professionally. We have a company called w3bmint, and that helps. We basically help brands onboard their customers into Web3 to build better customer loyalty, deliver utility, and encourage more sort of two-way communication as opposed to the traditional model of, targeted ads and just jamming products down people's throats.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but would you consider your company being some sort of an agency or a consultancy, or how would you describe it?
Oh, no, it's software. So it's B2B software is the best way to describe it. Sort of in that Web 2.5 space where we're onboarding businesses into Web3 through software. There is an agency component because we have launched a lot of projects in the past. So we do understand Web3 culture and how to build a successful project in Web3 and how to connect to an audience that has a sort of different cultural understanding and values different things. So there's a consulting element, but it's predominantly software. Okay, and what is that software exactly doing? Like, how does it look? How do you interact with it? How do your customers interact with it? Yeah, so it's basically no-code software that allows you to, as a first step, generate NFTs. Anything that currently exists in digital form can be an NFT. Membership passes, tickets are probably the two main ones. Receipts, for example, so you're able to upload an image and it turns it into an NFT. And then the next step, we have things like drag and drop web page builders, which acts as like a sales page. We've got tools such as social login and fiat payment. So customers of our users will be buying these things without even realizing that they're actually purchasing NFTs. And then we have things like token-gated commerce platforms. So we've essentially created, I guess, a template, kind of like you do on Shopify, but it's Web3 integrated. So you can create things like access to merchandise if you hold an NFT, or tickets to an event if you hold an NFT, or, access to an in-store experience if you hold an NFT. All of this is sort of automated within the software.
Yeah, and how did you get to that? I mean, because obviously it's the right timing, and I can assume, or I hope, but maybe you can answer that there are quite a few customers that use your service and are highly interested into that, right? But how did you, or when did you start it also thinking about that and then developing it? Because there are lots of things within it that just totally make sense and are at the edge of the current time or right in time, where you have no-code stuff, no-code website, you have easy, simple onboardings, these kind of things. So when did you start working on it, and how did you come up with it?
Yeah, I'd love to give you this answer where we work up with a stroke of genius, but it was really through pivoting. I think that's people who start their own businesses, that's one of the key words, being able to pivot. So I mentioned before, we built our own project. It was called Tasty Bones, and it became quite successful.
Yeah, I know Tasty Bones. Yeah.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, do you hold one?
No, but I know it.
So you don't know it well enough.
Yeah, well, true. Yeah.
Yeah, you should definitely get one. It's super cheap right now. Phase 2 is coming. Super cool things in the works. But basically, the way we started was we built Tasty Bones, and we had a lot of people ask us to help them with their projects. 522 emails from February to April, to be exact. And at the time, we realized we didn't want to be an agency. We didn't want to hire more consultants, more developers to match its needs. But we really did want to help put good projects out there. So we looked at automating all of the processes that we use to build Tasty Bones. Tasty Bones really had everything. So it wasn't just a PFP project. It actually had a giveaway portal so users could log in. It also had a dynamic NFT function, allowing you to change the look of your NFT by updating the metadata on chain. And so we automated all of that, and initially we just had a lot of people launch PFP projects off our platform. And what we realized halfway through was we just built this software that was easy to use, intuitive, and made sense for non-technical people to just be able to launch and build additional utility.
Yeah.
And it just made sense that it would be also usable by brands, because 99% of brands, considered small to medium enterprises, less than 1,000 employees, less than 10 million revenue. So they don't have what Nike has to have a team. And so their marketing team could easily log in and create digital memberships, airdropping tokens. And we pivoted simply because during the bear market, we noticed that a lot of enthusiasm in the NFT space was waning, and we just felt that there was a much bigger market and a genuine use case for NFTs as a technology in the brand space.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. But is Tasty Bones still somehow integrated into that w3bmint project, or is it completely detached from each other?
No, it's completely detached. So what we did with Tasty Bones was it did do quite well. I think, it's all public anyway. So it did 11K ETH in trade volume. Yeah. So we
during which time was it exactly?
I can't remember exactly when, but February sometime is when
Okay, but that was still quite an okayish ETH value back then.
11K, yeah, it was very good.
Yeah.
So we took, 11K in total sales, right? So
we
took a percentage of that. But we had a team already, so a bunch of mods, community managers, project managers, things like that. We created a community fund, so we set up a DAO in effect where our holders could actually decide what they felt was the best direction for the project with a voting system. So the team sort of governs itself through this fund. And that allowed the core team to really focus on w3bmint, because we really did want to be software builders. Because I think what we realized really quickly about NFTs was it's not about technology, but it's about IP. And we simply just didn't want to be in the IP game. Yeah.
Which makes sense. And what does your typical customer look like? Or is there a typical customer?
For w3bmint?
Yeah.
I think we have an ideal customer and a typical customer based on our current user base. So, as of now, we have about 437 users. And a typical customer would be a small team of artists with maybe one or two developers wanting to build a community-focused project, or Web3 software wanting to launch some sort of subscription-based model to access their NFT trading tools. But our ideal customer, we do have a few of them, but not enough to say typical. But our ideal customer is basically a small brand. For example, we live in Berlin. You walk down... well, what's a really popular street with a lot of shops somewhere in Kreuzberg?
Yeah, let's say somewhere in Kreuzberg, because I'm not from Berlin, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, any of these sort of boutique fashion stores who have some sort of way of tracking, you know, who their loyal customers are, and those would be our sort of ideal customers or users.
Okay. And how do you, so what's your responsibility in it? Are you CEO, or what's your role?
Yeah, I'm the CEO. So as my background's in law, so I have no understanding of smart contract or development, but I did work in a B2B software company as well. So I'm in charge of sort of setting the strategy, some of the marketing, some of the product development. I personally think I'm like a really funny person and also like super creative and really witty. And so I do some of the marketing and just some of the fun messaging around things.
So you left the dry law stuff and now basically do more creative, more fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm doing what I thought law would be, you know. Like I thought law would be being super creative and kind of witty and just outfoxing your opponent.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of doing that in an entrepreneurial space.
Okay. Yeah. And what's the business model like? Do you charge users for the creation of a collection, or where are revenue streams?
To be honest, we are still working out the full model, and, you know, we're open to listening to investors or just other business advisors. But right now, for your first project, it's totally free, and we take 6% of your sales. So if you free mint or you don't charge anything, we will not make anything, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
And that's all coded into smart contract. But for any additional collections or any of the additional utility pieces I mentioned, like token gated access platforms, dynamic NFTs, stuff like that, it's a yearly subscription of $5,000 a year.
Yeah, which should be actually feasible specifically for B2B companies if they're in that space. I mean,
if you're a Kreuzberg shop, that's probably 6 T-shirts.
Yeah.
And that's 5,000 right there, yeah.
Moment. Jetzt gibt's erstmal ein bisschen Werbung. Und zwar für Kryptoticker. Kryptoticker ist nämlich viel mehr als dieser Podcast. Kryptoticker ist die Community rund um Web3, Kryptowährungen, NFTs und allem, was dazugehört. Bereits seit 2015 kümmert sich das Team von Kryptoticker darum, Neulingen und Profis eine Heimat im Kryptospace zu bieten. Auf kryptoticker.io findest du jeden Tag neue Artikel und Insights, prall gefüllt mit News, Tipps, Hintergrundinfos und spannenden Einblicken. Im Kryptoticker Discord kannst du dich mit Tausenden von Gleichgesinnten austauschen, Fragen stellen, Kontakte knüpfen und vieles mehr. Schau am besten jetzt gleich in die Shownotes rein, denn da findest du alle Links zu Kryptoticker und kannst direkt ein Teil der Community werden. Und jetzt weiterhin viel Spaß mit Kryptoticker, der Podcast. Should be fine. But then also, I mean, you probably, or my understanding of it is that you tried to, or did in fact, incorporate quite a few different solutions that already exist on the market, but you just adapted them, built them by yourself and integrated them into your platform. Is there something where you say there's still a lot of open space for improvement? I don't know, let's say analytics platforms for NFT trading or something, or generally marketplaces, something where you say, well, we are working on that, maybe trying to incorporate that functionality or make it even better.
So that's a good question. And we get asked this all the time, like, you know, how are you different from any other no-code tool? And honestly, yeah, I could name 5 or 6 different tools right now. I think where we're different is that we've identified a specific segment of the market we want to capture, which is brands. And we are focused on optimizing just for that. So we're not just trying to be this catch-all no-code tool that anybody can use. We're really trying to optimize for brands. Mm-hmm. So that means, you know, most brands won't really care if the contract is a Dutch auction or 1155, 721A. All of the things don't matter. And so we've stripped out all of that technical language and just said, if you want to launch a membership, put in your parameters, and then we figure that stuff out in the background. So I think where we stand out is just us optimizing for one user group and making it as easy as possible. One thing that we're really big on, and I would almost challenge people to find a tool that is as sexy as ours. We're really, really focused on UI, UX, and having consistency in our branding. Because, you know, in a B2B environment, like, it's just super annoying to have to use technology. I don't know if you've used Salesforce or DealHub.
I did, but Salesforce is a monster.
Yeah,
it's massive. It's way too big, way too complex, and basically they suck you in. And once you're in, you have no way of getting out anymore.
Exactly, and there's like a stickiness element. If you're like a business and you use one tool, as long as it's good enough and you kind of know what it does, you're not going to rip that out of your infrastructure and do something else. And so we just want to make this software as fun to use as possible, so that if you're in the marketing team and your boss tells you to do this, like, that you're not like, oh shit, like I have to go on this platform and spend 40 minutes trying to figure out what to do. It's more just like, these are 5 steps, 20 minutes, and it just feels like a smooth and intuitive flow. And so we're really optimized for design, UI, UX.
Yeah. And how do you attract new customers? Because I can imagine it's very much of a marketing game, massively, what you have to put out.
With anything, it's just all about marketing. That's something that we learned very quickly, that you can have the worst product in the world, but if your marketing is better than everyone else's, people are going to come flocking to you.
Yeah.
And so, we learned that quite quickly. And so we do put a heavy focus on marketing. It's probably as heavy as our product development. But that's not to say we're not focused on developing, because we have 9, really solid full stack Solidity devs as well. We knew that we needed to have our branding on point, and to just sort of be consistent in the way our product looks, our website looks, our Twitter, Discord, everything is very consistent.
What is the channels that you are marketing on? Is there something where you, I don't know, do you use Twitter ads, or how do you?
No, so actually that's super interesting. The first project we launched, my co-founder kind of launched it, and I was watching from the sidelines at the time, but it did okay. I can't remember the ETH value, but it generated 1.7 million in revenue back in November 2021. We had paid for marketing, and it's kind of like taking steroids. You get that instant kind of gratification, and you get a bunch of people flocking in, but it's not sustainable. And in our second collection, Tasty Bones, we did do about 300K in traction, and we basically did not pay for any marketing. So all of it was organic. And I think we quickly learned in the Web3 space that organic growth is really the best way to grow sustainably. So up to this point, we have not paid for any targeted campaigns or anything like that. I know that we operate in a B2B space now, and so there might be some different rules. But I think we're very cautious when it comes to paid marketing.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I've had Holger already in a talk from Meta Brew Society, which is that German beer brand NFT, and he also said something which I found quite interesting, where he said for him one of the biggest learnings was you basically don't have to work with any sort of influencers in the space, because the whole growth that they bring you is completely unsustainable. Those marketing measures where you say, all right, I don't know, tag 3 friends, like, retweet, and you can earn 0.5 ETH, and you have to join the Discord. Well, they might join the Discord, but as soon as the competition is over, they're out again. So that's completely unsustainable. Is that something that you can also sign off?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, we've seen a lot of projects do things like that, where it's tag 3 friends, get 75 ETH, and as soon as competition is over, the numbers start to dwindle. And that's definitely true in the NFT space, but I think that's true in any kind of B2C space, right? Because the incentives aren't properly aligned. People are in it for financial reasons, not because of the brand that you're perpetuating. But again, I mean, if you have some advice on the B2B space and targeting brands, I'm all ears, because I think that's really one of our main weaknesses. Like, we know how to get in the door to talk to doodles or kaiju friends and stuff, but I would not know how to talk to H&M about their NFT strategy, or Walmart, and maybe LinkedIn marketing works. We're really not sure on that point.
Well, I'm not sure either, because I mean, for me, most of the stuff that I do business-wise is really existing through personal connections. Eventually, that's how it works for me. But what an interesting solution that I've seen is SalesView. I don't use it. I have never used it.
Software? Or?
Yeah, the software SalesView. What they basically do is, and I don't want to provide any commercial or advice or something here.
Sponsorship.
Nothing like that. But what they do is basically they track who visits your website, so which company actually visits your website, and then provides you with that information. And basically what you can do is then contact, obviously, the company, because well, they've been on my website, or IPs from that company have been on my website for multiple times, so they must be interested in me, right? So they are, that who you contact might actually be interested in what you do and has already seen the website and took a look at it. So it's not like a warm lead, but it's not cold either.
Because they were looking for you.
Exactly, they were looking for you. So they must somehow be interested. I mean, okay, maybe they thought you were shit because they didn't actually call you then or whatever. But I thought the idea is quite interesting, and that solution might be interesting for quite a few companies. For me, it's not relevant, so I haven't used it, but could be interesting. I don't know.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is because of COVID, it's radically changed the way we work.
True.
And so more people are working from home or off the coast of the Bahamas. And so IP addresses are dynamic and there's no centralized, Amazon IP. But I mean, I think that's probably something we're going to look at.
As said, I haven't taken a detailed look, but could be interesting. I don't know. Okay. All right, David, thanks a lot for being here, for providing your insights, your knowledge, your experience. All the best with w3bmint and your future endeavors. So thanks a lot for this. I put all the links obviously in the show notes when we release. So cheers.
Thank you very much.
Vielen Dank fürs Zuhören. Und wenn euch die Folge gefallen hat, dann lasst uns gerne ein Like da, klickt auf Abonnieren, macht eine Bewertung oder was euch sonst so einfällt. Damit helft ihr uns ziemlich. Und jetzt einen schönen restlichen Tag, Abend oder Morgen und bis zum nächsten Mal.